January Journal 2021, Log Entry Day 27. Gratitude. I'm very thankful for waking up at the right time, even though I started recording like 1 hour later. I am acting according to my body and how I feel. I might be weaker today, but I'm still doing it, and I'm very happy about that. I'm thankful for my friends and the people who are part of my life. I am thankful for my moments of peace. I'm thankful for my job opportunities and volunteer opportunities, new things that are coming my way. It's not over yet. There's always something new. There will always be something else. Nothing in life is permanent. I'm very, very thankful. I'm thankful for all of you, every single one of you who are still finding these transmissions and still leaving some answers and feedback and your point of view. I appreciate learning from each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Today is short and simple because this is about the authors that have influenced my writing. I don't have the privilege of having writers that influenced me since I was a little girl and such things, because I started my writing career, so to speak, kind of late in life, not very long ago. So, what can I say? Many of my influences are even recently discovered, and instead of being called an influence, I would say it's an author that's already doing what I'm trying to do with my own works. And I recently discovered this author, and wow, the similarities, it kind of restores my hope in the writing industry and the writing world, and it makes me feel that what I'm doing can make sense, and I just have to work harder and improve my skills. So influences, similarities, whatever you want to call it. These are the authors that I have a connection to, that I feel influenced by, that I feel inspired by. These are the authors that I return to. These are the authors that, that author over there is my whatever. Those are the authors. Okay, so who is the first? I would say the first would be Jorge Luis Borges. Yay, represent Argentina, I know. And I have to thank my mom for this one, because it was thanks to mom and her many stories of Borges and how he was actually friends with someone in the family. So in a way, it's part of my adopted heritage. I don't know how to describe this, but it means a lot. And yes, Borges has a unique style of writing, and I have the privilege, so to speak, to be able to read it in the original language. I can read this in Spanish, no problem. I understand everything. It's one of my languages. So of course I can enjoy Borges and El Jardín de los Senderos que se bifurcan, El Sur, La Muerte y la Brújula, El Aleph, all those stories, just to name a few. I can enjoy them in Spanish, and it's beautiful. The way that he writes an entire story in such a concise way without missing descriptions. He has this talent of telling you a whole novel in short story format. I don't know how to describe it or how does he do it, but his writing is like liquid velvet. I don't know, it's amazing. I am nowhere near as good as this man ever was. Please, I am not comparing myself. What I'm saying here is that his ability to give you a gigantic story in very few words has somewhat influenced how I write, because I kind of do the same. Not as good as he does, but I kind of do the same, because I can tell you a short story that reads more like it was a short novel or something, or that was a piece of feedback that I got. This is why I am saying it, because somebody told me that my short story Danger was like a novel but in short story format, and I was like, that sounds so Borgian, and it was one of the biggest compliments I have received, and I'm very thankful for it. So Borges has definitely been one of my biggest influences, and one of the pieces where you can definitely hear that I have been touched and influenced and inspired by this amazing author is my poem Lavandas. It's my only poem in Spanish. I cannot write Spanish poetry. I can't. It's just, it's not there. But Lavandas, which lavender, it was such a clear influence from The Garden of the Forking Paths, El Jardín de los Senderos que se bifurcan. I understood immediately where that influence was coming from. And I'm happy and I'm proud and I'm thankful. I dedicate that poem in a strange way. I dedicate that poem to my mom. Someday I'm gonna write a Finnish poem for my dad because I have to. I wrote one in Spanish, now one in Finnish. I feel sad that I don't really have a Finnish author that's an influence. I'm looking for it. Unfortunately, I have not found it yet, but I will find it at some point. Anyway, moving on. Another big influence for me, of course, the queen of the queens of the pioneers of sci-fi, Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. That woman. I don't know what's with her, but what I'm trying to do with my sci-fi here, taking out the epistolary format of writing the novel as a form of letters directed to someone else. No, taking away that format. What I'm trying to do with my novel is kind of similar, in a way, because the main focus of my story is also a human being who was born in a laboratory in space this time around. But, it's a lab-made creature, human, who also feels a toxic relationship with his father, and yay, the parallels. So, knowing without knowing, Mary Shelley has been an influence in my writing even before I realized that she was. The list is kind of interesting for now. Borges, Mary Shelley, who else? This one is a recent discovery, but I felt the influence so clearly. Because to me, I know I should not compare, but this is kind of like an Icelandic version of Borges in the sense that he can also write an entire novel in very few words, and that would be Sjón. Sjón is an Icelandic lyricist, poet, author, director. I don't know. He does whatever he wants. He is a big name in Iceland. I love what I have read by him. I have read some of the books, not all of them. I will continue to read them when I have chance and access and money and all those stuff. But The Blue Fox was so touching to find. It was amazing. It's a historical fiction about the 1800s in Iceland, and it has many plot lines. The multi-POV. In such a few words. It was refreshing. And yes, the parallel with The Blue Fox and Hunter and Prey, and oh my god, Sjón, you touched my heart with that. Also, he was an influence of mine before I even realized that he was. Before I read his novels, he was already a big influence in my life because he happens to be one of the co-authors for the songs in Dancer in the Dark. So he wrote lyrics together with Björk for one of the movies that I think it changed my life. So he changed my life before I even realized that he did. And then I found out that he was responsible for I've Seen It All and 107 Steps and In the Musicals and all those songs from the movie. Amazing. I'm so thankful. Sjón, you're a master. I love your work. All of it, all that I have seen, it's wonderful. Takk fyrir. I don't think he will ever find this, but I don't care. Takk fyrir, Sjón. And sticking with Iceland for a while, this is another recent discovery, but I am so happy and so thankful and so proud of this writer. I just love his work. What can I say? Has nothing to do with him being from Iceland. I swear I have read other Icelandic authors by now, and it's not the same feeling. I mean, Andri Snær Magnusson, and how much he cares for our planet, for the environment. And it's not about any agenda. He genuinely cares, and he sees the impact of global warming, sea level rising. He sees the impact of all of this in his home country of Iceland. He sees how the governments, even in Iceland, who so pretend to be green and eco-friendly, and then the reality is that even his government has failed nature multiple times. Because economy, because tourism, because whatever. And Andri openly and bravely calls it out every time he has a chance. He does it in his fiction, he does it in his documentaries, he does it in his non-fiction. On Time and Water is such a precious book. Andri, if you ever find this video, which I hope maybe not, but I mean I have talked to the guy personally. But like, if you ever find this video, please, I'm not a groupie, I'm not a super fan. I have just been touched in such a deep level with your work that I don't know how to express it, and I get overly emotional. I'm sorry. But yes, Andri Snyder Magnusson, his work has been such a big influence. It already was like an affinity, I would say, not maybe not an influence, but like an affinity, and it gives me hope to continue with the kinds of stories that I want to tell and the kind of characters that I want to write. And I don't have words for this, but finding his books has been one of the most influential and hope-restoring findings in my literature, and I'm very, very thankful. So Andri, never stop writing. Love your stories, your poetry, the documentaries I have been able to watch, not all of them, because one of them is in Icelandic and I cannot read subtitles, and my Icelandic is very poor at this point. So, but anyway, every piece of work that I have found by Andri is amazing. I love it. Books are on screen throughout this whole video. I love it so much. Tack fyrir, Andri. I should go back a little bit. The author that made me love literature in English, because like I said, I grew up in another language and I don't always feel a connection to that other language, and literature for that market is very different, and I'm too ace for that kind of literature. I'll just leave it at that. So the first author that I found in English, like, you know, fiction in English instead of just like self-help or whatever, was Philip Pullman and the trilogy His Dark Materials. And yeah, I have been told that I was influenced by Mr. Pullman somehow. I suppose because in that trilogy, Mr. Pullman is very vocal and very open about bashing a fictional version of Catholicism, and I am so here for it. And I am going to do the same because I feel that I am in a place where I can bash Catholicism, and I will, in its rightful measures, because I'm not going to make my novels just about that, but yeah, it's gonna be there somewhere, because I have a lot to say about Catholicism and how they treat disabled people. So it's gonna be a part of my writing, but maybe not to the extent of Mr. Pullman's, but it's gonna be there. I'm sorry if you happen to be Catholic. It's nothing against your religion. It's nothing personal. It's nothing against you. It's just what I have experienced as a person with a disability and how they treat us and how they, you know, no religion is safe from darkness and manipulation and crap. So yes, I'm a writer, I will speak for it. But anyway, moving on. Another of my big influences is the author that made me actually want to start writing. Not just that made me love reading in English, but made me start the wish to become a writer. Mr. Jonathan Stroud, the author of the Lockwood & Co. series, and sometimes more famous for the Bartemius trilogy. I have not read Bartemius yet, what the hell? I know. But yeah, the Lockwood & Co. series was a recommendation by a fellow writer, and it blew my mind, and I said, hey, I would also like to start writing stories, and I would maybe like to work on the idea that I have for my sci-fi. And then that book series came into my life, and I was like, yes, this is it, I'm gonna start writing. So Mr. Stroud, you gave me hope that I could write my own stories too. Particularly book 2 of the series of Lockwood & Co. Yes, book 2 was very special. Near the end, something happened that made me feel that not everything out there is against blind characters or visually impaired characters. I was delighted to find out. Thank you, Mr. Stroud, for being such an influence in my writing career from so early on, way before I realized that this was actually going to be a thing that I wanted to do. Endlessly thankful. He's wonderful. This is kind of getting long already, huh? So there are 2 more authors that I recently discovered. Very recently. I'm talking few months ago. And wow, the influence is already present. And wow, it was amazing. Anthony Doerr and Charles Soule. Yes, I'm going to make my own review of the book that we just read. I read it together with a writer friend, and we really enjoyed Light of the Jedi, The High Republic, the Star Wars franchise. Charles Soule is already an influence or a similarity or an affinity author. I don't know how to call this. I genuinely don't know how to call this. I need to read more Charles Soule in my life. It's wonderful. I love what I saw. It restored my hope in my own work. Anthony Doerr also restored my hope in my works because it's a multi-POV story, all the light we cannot see. Ah, it was so refreshing to find a blind character that's actually human, and it doesn't have to be like a heroine and do super powerful things. She was just a girl, and it was amazing to see what he did with the character of Marie-Laure. I love her so much. It's one of my favorite blind characters of all time, and oh wow, I feel it to the bones, that book. I was so afraid of reading it, and look at me now. I love it. It's one of my all-time favorites. And same goes for Charles Soule. There's no blind nothing in there because it's Star Wars, but I didn't think I would relate to the franchise. I went in there because my friend is a fan of Star Wars, and I was like, cool, let's read together, let's see what is this all about. And wow, I related so much to many characters in different aspects, big and small, and I was like, wow, this author really makes you relate to many of the characters, even the bad guys sometimes, and you're like, hey, that's actually quite relatable. That is something I want to accomplish with my writing, and I see that Charles did it in such a good way. It was impeccable. You will see my review when I get to it, because I'm going to start making book reviews soon, but these two recent discoveries that are even more recent than Andri and Sion, my goodness, I feel hopeful again about the writing world, which was something that I was kind of losing. I was losing my hope. I was short of hope, and there we go. I found it again. And yeah, those are the writers that influence my writing, so to speak. And yeah, that will be my list. It's kind of weird. I know, it's where are your sci-fi writers apart from Mary Shelley? Well, yeah, Andri, I guess, because he also writes sci-fi, but it's a strange kind of sci-fi, and Charles Soule in a way, because Star Wars is kind of sci-fi. So there you go. I have some sci-fi influence, but I want to try and get diversification in the kind of things that I read and the kind of things that I want to be influenced by. So yeah, that's the authors as of right now, because this list might expand and grow and evolve and all those things as my writing career also evolves. Because like I said, I started quite late in life. I am still discovering so many things. What are your authors of influence or affinity or similarity, or, oh, I do this thing like this other author and they also do this thing like I'm trying to do over here? What are your authors that make you fangirl and talk enthusiastically for hours like I'm doing right now? Let me know if you want to share. And as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening.